Hello and welcome to the BuiltOnAir podcast. BuiltOnAir is a regular podcast where we talk with everyday people and learn about the amazing things they are doing with Airtable. Today's podcast is sponsored by OpenSide, the leading solutions provider for Airtable customers. Check out openside.com to learn more about their products and services that can take your Airtable usage to the next level. Use promo code BuiltOnAir to receive $20 towards any product purchase.
In this episode, we're joined by Kuovonne Vorderbruggen, who discusses with us her journey from teaching herself coding to ultimately producing multiple scripts recognized by Airtable and the Airtable community for their merit. Drawing on her experience as a technical writer, Kuovonne's scripts come well documented with a detailed explanation of the script's methodology and have a consistent, intuitive structure which makes them easy to follow. We discuss the joys and headaches that come with problem solving through coding, and later Kuovonne shares her spectacular process to create preformatted multi-page PDFs using a combination of Airtable, Excel, Microsoft Access, and Word. With Airtable as the user-friendly database, Kuovonne shows us how she's able to get dozens of records exported from Airtable to be displayed perfectly with rich text and Word with the aid of Visual Basic Coding. While it's a bit of a complicated process, it's an excellent example of how Airtable can be used as just one step in a larger workflow to accomplish something great.
So first, let me show you what the finished booklet is going to look like. That'll help understand a little bit more what we're going. So this is self-published by Mark Meriwether Vorderbruggen, and it's a little booklet that he does for different classes that he teaches. And right now, this is just a PDF file where it can be printed at home. It's got a table of contents, some other static text that stays the same. But what happens is that we get into this section near the end, near the middle, which is the bulk of it, where we have a list of all the different plants, scientific names, the different parts, and different ways of using it for medicinal uses of these different plants. And so you can see it's got a lot of nice formatting in it. It's got, special styles on the headings. It's got some metallic text. It's got this fancy table in here. And you'll even notice that we have a table that has cells that span multiple cells.
Right.
And other things like here, you can see sometimes some plants will have a scientific name. And some plants will also have, if I can find one, a common name. So like here. So I needed some way where I didn't want to store all this information in the Word document that was capable of producing all of this formatting, but I needed a way of getting it out of Airtable that would also manage to have all of this fancy formatting in it that would do it quickly and easily. So if we made it once and then he wanted to make some changes in the text, I could just recreate it quickly without any manual steps and without having, it's changed in the document, but now we need to go back and change it in Airtable. I didn't want any of that. I wanted a single source.
Right.
And then it also did some neat little things because we have in the back is an index. And I wanted to be able to have this index automatically generated based on all of the content. So that was the end goal. And this is how we got there. So first we started with the database. This actual database has a lot more fields in it. I'm just showing you some of the ones that we have now that are relevant for this particular workflow.
Yeah, I see there are 70 hidden fields. My goodness.
There's a lot of other stuff. We just don't need to get into. This was also built a lot of way. There's just a lot of information that he's gathering in it. And you can also see underneath plants, there's some 360 plants in there.
Yeah.
So there's each plant. We have the common name for it, the plant type, the scientific name, some other common names, and a little field that says whether or not we want to include it in the booklet because we don't want every plant in the booklet. He makes different booklets for different regions and different purposes. So that was another thing where I wanted to be able to say, okay, new booklet, I want these plants in it now, and quickly regenerate it.
Sure.
And then there's the medicinal uses. And so for each plant, there's several different medicinal uses. We want the part, the purpose, the preparation, and some other information that you saw that was in the booklet. So all of this text here is where it's all edited here. If he wants to add another row, another plant, he does all of that in Airtable.
Mm-hmm.
And some of it you can see like the purpose, some of that's going to be a long text field. And that was important to realize that it's a long text field because you might want to have like a little paragraph or something that's going to be longer than what a short text field can hold.
Sure.
Okay, so it's all arranged in here. And then what I did was I experimented for so long trying to figure out how can I get it out of Airtable into something else. One of the most common ways of getting things out of Airtable is you just, you do an export to a CSV file.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's great unless you have a comma in your text field or you have multi-line text, and you can see here in my purpose, there's lots of commas all over the place.
Yep.
So, well, what can you do? What you can do is you can copy and paste into Excel. And so what I'll do is I go through, and what I will do is I'll have my filter and I'll say, I just want these where the include is checked. So it'll only going to show the plants that I included.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to select all. I'm pressing Control-C, copying on it.
Mm-hmm.
Paste it into Excel. And here in Excel, I have this set up where it has the exact same column names that I had before in here. So everything's going to match up. Paste it all in. And then you'll notice, so these are not exactly the same names that they are, but they're pretty close to the same names that they were in Airtable. And then these are actually going to be used in a mail merge sort of ish kind of thing because I kept running into more and more things going on.
Okay.
Other thing you'll notice is line 2. See how it all says hold for conversion?
Yep.
That's because I also found there's weird things that go on where when you have really long text fields that they get truncated when you try and do a mail merge on them unless the very first record is really long.
Okay.
So it took a lot of experimenting in it, but basically all I did there was paste it in there. Now, first I tried doing a mail merge into Word directly from this, and I found out I just couldn't get all of the formatting that I wanted. So I said, okay, well, you know what? I know a way I can get some more formatting, and what that is with Microsoft Access, because I'd used that before.
Okay.
So then what I do is now I have you can see here I've got my numbered step. The first thing that I do is from Airtable. It's an Excel spreadsheet, and that's number 1, and I copy and I paste into that. Then number 2 is from an Microsoft Access database. Open that up. And you can see here that the only table in here is it's plants from Excel linked. So this actually gets the information from Microsoft Excel.
Okay.
So it's linked. So it's all this stuff here, and I cannot actually edit it here, any of this stuff.
Okay.
It won't like it. Okay. All this does then is it takes this in, and then it's going to make an RTF report. And it's going to look really weird and ugly. So if we open up, it's got all this stuff here, which is weird codes and stuff like that. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this and I'm going to save it to an RTF file. Export Word RTF file. I'm going to save this. There. And that saved it into this file here, access to RTF. When I open that, it's going to look exactly like the RTF file looked like when it was in Microsoft Excel, Access. And it's got all of these little things here, start plant group here, end plant group here, all this. So this is little codes that it's put in that the macros in Word are going to use to interpret, to turn into all the fancy formatting with the tables and all of that. But this is just an RTF file that was exported from Access, so there's no code in it. So I have to open the one that has the Word file that has the macros in it. So this is step 4, plant macros. Open it up here. Here it's got some old stuff from the last time I ran the macro.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just go ahead and delete it all. So you can see I deleted everything. It's got nothing in it.
Mm-hmm.
I take here, this is my RTF file. Let's select all, copy, go over here to my file with the macros, paste it in,
Mm-hmm.
and then go, and I have a little button up here that will just run the Word macro. So let me just click that. It says it's going to run. Then I just sit back, and you can see that the macro in Word is going and changing a bunch of stuff, applying the formatting. It's going to create the tables. It's going to create the indexes and all of that. And then it's done.
Wow. Okay.
So there it is. So now I have formatted text, tables, borders on the tables, italics, and then if you go through and view some of the stuff, this is a new version of Word that I'm ending it on, so I don't quite remember where all the things are. I think, here we go. So you can see here, it's created these individual things that you want to see here. Here where it says this XE, so this is an index entry that Word is going to use to create the index at the end of the booklet.
Sure.
And it's got other ones here. Okay. So all of that was created by the Word macro.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can just take this and then I copy and paste it into another document that has all that little front matter with the table of contents at the beginning and the nice pretty picture on the cover.
Sure.
So that's how it is. That's the basic things. And then I can go here and I can look at it. And the idea is I can look here and I can say, oh, you know what? We made a mistake. We need to add this other plant. Or, oh, you know what? I don't want this plant anymore. And then they can say, you know what? Hey, I don't want that. What we can do, it's no problem. Okay, fine. You don't want that plant. You want to make this edit? You know, right now it's got American Holly in it. I don't want it. Just clear that so it's not included in the booklet. Go back here. Airtable is going to automatically pull that out of my view because it's my filter.
Mm-hmm.
And then I could just copy and then repeat all 7 steps of it again without having to touch anything other than those steps that are always going to stay the same.
Right. And that took you, I think, 4 minutes. Very simple. Obviously, it took you who knows how long to write all the macros and to figure out this process. But like
that
you're
took
saying,
days.
Well, of course. But you're saying you're working with someone else in order to get all of this information in the Airtable in the first place. Mm-hmm. It's this kind of process that relieves the headache of getting something that looks nice, a nice little export. And I commend you because, my goodness, incredible.
Yeah. Because originally, when I was working with him, he'd say, okay, I want to format in this little booklet, and then we'd find like a typo. And he'd want to just fix it just right there in the Word document. I'm like, no, you can't do that. You have to go back to your original source, and you've got to fix it there. Or there just be little things that we want to see, and I'm like, I want to make sure that we capture the latest information and have it be easy enough to generate the finished one so that you can actually see what it looks like. Because when you look at it in the Airtable interface, it doesn't look at all what it's going to look like in the finished booklet, and that's what's really going to tell you how you want things to show up.
Right.
And getting this workflow down, I said I needed it to be under 10 minutes, and that's what this workflow did. And it was all free because we already had Microsoft Access and all the other Word problems. And like recently, I think Airtable has released a new custom block, a new block that will supposed to make creating documentation easier, but that requires the Pro plan for Airtable plus the subscription for the other service to do it.
True.
And this is basically free.
Yeah.
If you can write the code.
Yes. It takes an incredible amount of skill and a lot of time, as you said, in order to do it. And yeah, I think just to clarify again, there's a myriad of solutions using Airtable to get a database to become a PDF of some sort. But what none of those include really is, what if you have a bunch of other text that you want to include, like your use case? You're writing a book, and the first part of that book it's not gonna make sense to be in the database. So
Well, I mean,
again,
we could have
incredible.
put that in the database. It's just that part didn't change. To me, what it was I wanted formatting. I wanted a lot of formatting. And Airtable it's not set up to be a desktop publishing solution. And
It's not.
It
No.
shouldn't have to be. But Microsoft Word is. Microsoft Word has all of these formatting issues. It can generate a table of contents and an index automatically. You can preview, you can create this PDF file, and it's trying to bring those two systems together. This is for most publishing situations, I think this would be overkill. But when you want to have tables with merged cells and fancy borders, it's really nice to be able to do something quick and free.
I can't obviously speak for everyone, but I'm thinking of this for in my day-to-day job. We're basically architects, and we go after different projects. And when we are putting out our qualifications for a project, we'll have a stack of sheets of PDFs, right, that show all of the projects that we've done before, and they're all supposed to be pulling from one source. But we make them in InDesign, not Word. And so it's difficult to go back and make sure all of the versions of those PDFs remain the same. And what I wanted to do was something like you've done, store all that information in the Airtable, and then just have a process that generates for me all of these different exportable PDFs and things that I can attach to the rest of the document. And again, this is with Word, but it shows me that it's possible.
Yeah, that it is possible, and it's really convoluted, and it's overkill for a lot of situations. The reasons why I felt I had to do it this way was, so for example, if you look at the little workflow that I've got numbered here, let me close some of these windows. You're like, well, I could have just gone and pasted it into Excel, and if I didn't need the heavy table formatting, I could have just done a mail merge from Excel into Word, and that would have been fine. But I needed the heavy table formatting when I needed, that's why I needed Access. Well, if I have everything in Access, why do I need the Excel? Well, I need the Excel because I can't just copy and paste into Access. Access won't create all those new cells and new rows the way Excel will.
Yeah.
So that's why I had to have both of those. And also, when you have something like Access can actually produce some fairly nice, very complicated formatting in it, but then it's static. It's set. You can't go and say, you know what, I want to add a page break right here. So that's why I had to go from Access into Microsoft Word. And what I also liked about Word was it gave me all of those macros, everything in Visual Basic, so I could do a lot of the formatting and cleanup and do things like creating index entries automatically, which I couldn't do without a scripting language. Because I don't think InDesign has a scripting language, does it?
Yeah. Yes and no. I'm going to say no to keep it simple.
Well, I mean, a lot of things will have macros or little things that they can do, but they're not full scripting language the way Visual Basic is.
Yeah. Just, again, incredible. And again, I want to point out the problem solving that you had to do in order to get your finished product, figuring out at what step which program has to do which task is the best way to say it. And you just explained it perfectly. You can't add new cells to Access, so you need to use Excel, and vice versa. You needed extra formatting, so you had to use Access. You couldn't go straight from Excel.
And then there were really weird things. Like I said, I found in the Excel spreadsheet, it's because I had to create this new one row because I couldn't figure out why all of my text was getting truncated. And it's like, wait a minute, why? And then it was a lot of digging around on the internet to find out eventually, the problem is if it's not the very first row that's a long text field, then it all gets truncated, even if you tell Access that it's a long trunks field. So it's a lot of digging up little quirks like that and trying to solve them. And that skill actually translated very well when I was trying to write scripts for the scripting block, because it's the same kind of research of looking up, why isn't this doing what I expect it to do? To try and figure that out, and then finding out, well, what's the workaround?
Yeah. Have you tried or thought of using a script in some way with this particular workflow?
This workflow I actually created a couple of years ago, and I might be able to do something with the script, but I don't think I necessarily need to right now, because it's such a complicated process that I don't want to mess with it right now. It works very well.
Yeah.
It's also one that I don't have to do that often anymore. If it were something that I had to do every day, multiple times a day, yeah, I would probably look into more scripting solutions for that.
Yeah.
You know, but it's actually very nice, because now, before I only had scripting available in the Microsoft Office side. Now there's scripting that I could do in the Airtable side, as well as all the Microsoft Office products. So I could probably cut down on a lot of this stuff. I just have to figure out all of that code if I were going to write a column scripting block, and it's a lot of code.
I'm
if you
sure
wanted
it
to
is.
see some of it,
yeah, please.
So this is what, if I can see the editor. So this is the Visual Basic. This is what Visual Basic's editor looks like. So the main, so I wrote this 2 years ago before I learned JavaScript. And so I did stupid things like, I said, I named my functions run me. I don't do that anymore.
If it works,
so like, here's what it is. And you can see it's very different from JavaScript. There's no semicolons, there's no curly braces. We have the word sub and sub. That when you call a function, you actually don't put spaces, you don't put parentheses around your function parameters. So it's just, it was very difficult going from one method to another.
Yeah.
I would do weird things when I was trying to learn one language and then another, and I wasn't really very up on either one. I'd be like, why isn't this working out? It's because I'm putting in semicolons on every line, and you're not supposed to have them anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think VBA has literal if-then statements where you have to write the word then. Is that right?
Yeah. So a lot of different, slightly different syntax. Let me see if I can see. Yeah. So see here, you've got if-then. And so if-then, oh, that drives me nuts, because, okay, in Visual Basic, you have to have the if and then the word then.
Yeah.
In JavaScript, you have to have if, and then you have to have parentheses around where you're evaluating.
And then it's curly
braces. And then you have your formulas in Airtable, and then you have to have the word if with the parentheses and no space in between.
Yeah.
So trying to go all these different languages, it's like, okay, I know exactly my algorithm. I want an if statement or a switch statement that does this. And then I have to go back and I think, okay, what's the syntax for that again in this language? So
it's hard to keep it all straight. Yeah.
No. But actually, I find that that's the easy part, is because I was learning coding at the same time, I'm just used to having my script, my reference sheet right next to me that has the exact syntax. I'm used to going and looking up and seeing, well, why doesn't this work? And so I'll just go and I'll Google it and Google it and Google it until I find out what's going wrong and what it should be.
Thank you so much for showing this. Again, I cannot get over how amazing I find this process to be, just because it's so, you said it's convoluted. I don't think it is. I think this is about as efficient as it possibly could be in order to get what you wanted to get.
Yeah, I think it's convoluted because most times what it's nice is you click a single export button and you have what you want.
Yeah.
This involves 4 different programs.
It does, but also you're just copying and pasting really from my view. Obviously.
Oh yeah. It's 100% copy, paste, click, run.
Yeah.
100% that. But you still have to copy paste and you still have to have 4 different programs.
I think in a perfect world, you'd be able to export straight from Airtable to, I guess, Access is the first step you might be able to get it straight into if you were able to, do some more tweaking.
Actually, if I were to redo this now, probably what I would do is I'd create a script that would dump everything to a plain text file, and then I would have Microsoft Word import the plain text file and run its macros to do its thing.
Oh, okay. So you're saying skipping straight to the RTF portion, basically. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
But that would require
a lot.
So much more code.
Yes, it would.
And this works.
Really tough. Yeah, it works and it works great. I think this is an excellent demonstration of how you can incorporate Airtable into another workflow, even if that workflow does involve multiple other programs as opposed to just saying 1 or 2 extra. Thank you so much for your time. If you have anything you want to plug for our subscribers, here's a chance.
The only thing I have to say is right now I'm still transitioning, trying to find a new career. If anyone is interested in hiring me.
Mm-hmm. We will put your website in the description, and we'll point to some of your scripts as well on the community forum because they're all very useful, of course. I want to say I wish you great fortune in your endeavors, and also please be safe in this tumultuous time in our country.
You too.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here. You have a great day.
Thank you for having me.